I think that is a huge problem in the education part because, again, like if you're going to say that you're a specialist in anything, if you're a blonde specialist, if you are a bronze specialist, like whatever it is, like you need to know how to do that across the board, across all fabrics of hairs.
I'm so glad you could make it. Sit down, sit down. Oh, yeah. Oh, the band is gonna be awesome tonight. I dig it. I'm so glad you could make it.
Hey, welcome back to season 4 of Therapy Sessions. I'm your host, Tasha Davis, also known as Auntie Hair Coach, and I chat with everyday people telling real stories about their beauty industry journey. Today's guest is a live-in blonde and dimensional brunette specialist who is healing hair traumas one head at a time. Sasha Nicole has entered the chat. Welcome, my love.
Hello.
Hey, girl. So thank you for accepting my invitation. And I'm going to kind of go off template on this episode a little bit because I wanted to kind of share the story of how I met you. We are new friends.
Yes.
But I met you in March, right? At Texture versus Race.
Absolutely.
Yes. And my daughter and I, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the last day, and my daughter, who also happens to be my apprentice, and I were running late that day. So we're standing outside the hotel looking frazzled because we're trying to call an Uber or like decide if we want to walk. And yours pulled up and you're just like, hey, just ride with me.
Absolutely.
So we like all hopped in the ride and rode together. And so first of all, that was really sweet. Thank you again for that. I don't remember if I even said thank you that day. I was a little taken aback by it. What made you offer for us to ride with you that day?
I think that I'm taken aback by you being taken aback. Like I just think it's a kind human thing to do. Like I recognized you two from the whole weekend and like why not share a ride? We're all going to the same place. It's like a couple blocks up. I have a whole car. Like why not? So
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. No, and that is, I mean, you're right. Absolutely that. And so then I really appreciated it. It was just unexpected. And we really appreciated it. And now, like, I'm just excited to get to know you more. We ended up sitting together and chatting a bit inside the event. How was Texture versus Race for you? Was this your first year? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was my first year. It was
Okay.
so good. Like, I mean, I learned so much but also want to learn even more. And like, it just like opened my eyes to so many things and just like topics of conversation or more knowledge that I can help share throughout my community here as well. And I just wanted more. Like, I feel like I just want more and more education in dealing with like bettering my education with all hair fabrics and types because I know that I'm not. I've had my own hair trauma in doing hair that I don't have business doing yet and creating trauma of my own. And it hurt me so much that I inflicted that when I'm one that wants to give people like what they desire and like help them feel embodied, that I was like, the only answer to this is just to get educated. It's as easy as that.
Absolutely. So let's stay in this pocket for a minute because I appreciate your admission of having understood that you've inflicted hair trauma before. Do you care to share that story?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like there was a couple times. Okay, so I'm from Utah and we have like no diversity in Utah. And so I learned how to just do Caucasian hair all the time. And actually, like I did learn how to do like curlier cuts. We had a lot of maybe like Latin curls or like, I don't know, like just softer curly hair. And so I had like a slight education on it and thought that I had enough. And then I got out to Miami and I realized it's a whole different ballgame. And I had a couple different clients that would come in, and I have this mindset where I almost limit myself and be like, I don't think I can do that. But I was like, no, like you can do these things, like just try it. And so I did, and I did 2 cuts. That took me 3 hours because I was so attentive to the detail, and they turned out like okay. Um, they're not up to like my part, and I wouldn't, I just didn't, I wasn't happy with them. But then I had a third woman come in, and she wanted her hair bleached out like platinum blonde. She'd already been lightened once. She talked about, and she had shorter hair. She talked about that she wanted to like grow it out longer, and that her hair was like really healthy and doing good. And like, honestly, like I have not, I don't even have experience like cutting or even styling ethnic hair. And so I was like asking her questions all along the way, and she was very, very kind to me, and she was like giving me information and kind of teaching me how it went. And when I colored her hair, I feel like I did it low and slow, and I was very intentional with it, but I don't know if I created a lot of, I mean, I created damage on her hair. She was very unhappy. However, like, I don't know after doing further research if there was any other way I could have, I was like going in being like, okay, how do we lighten hair? Like, I know low and slow, like, I know washing it out when it's ready. And maybe just like the integrity of her hair already, or maybe just like the small coil of it, I just didn't do right. So I ended up frying her hair, but also when I went to go cut her hair after the fact and blow drying it and flat ironing it, I know that she was telling me that I was passing over her hair with the flat iron way too much. Like I shouldn't be doing that. And when I was cutting, I was trying to even out her hair. I wasn't necessarily putting layers in her hair. She thought I was putting layers in her hair, but she had been wearing it curly for months and months and months, and she wanted to start wearing it straight. So I was just trying to even out her hair, and I feel like that wasn't what she wanted either. And she ended up calling back and like saying that her hair was extremely damaged and that she's going to have to like cut it all off again. And she had two of my other hairstylists at my salon. Mind you, I don't even think that they had expertise and education in this texture of hair at all either. But they
Mhm.
made it a lot better. Well, they made it better, and she was still calling back saying that it wasn't good enough. And like, I just felt so guilty and so sad. And she wrote me a DM on Instagram just saying like, if you don't know how to work with this type of hair, like you should have just told me, like it's okay. Like I would rather have had a no than have now having to go through all this healing process again. And I totally understand that. Like I have over processed my hair, and I know how horrible that is. And like when your hair is like not that long and you have to go back to the basics and square one, like it just really like penetrated my heart. And I knew that like I don't want to limit the clientele that can come into my chair. Like I don't want to have to turn away anybody. And it just sparked inspiration in my soul that like I want to do better, and I want to be serving all of my community. And with that, like I have had a stint at teaching at Paul Mitchell as well, and seeing that there is no texture education at all unless there's
Mm.
somebody in there that knows how to work with all fabrics of hair. Like it's not being taught. Maybe it's an hour long or a 2 hour long segment in their entire education, where I remember when I was a student, all the information coming in was so overwhelming because everything was new. And it's like, what are we wanting to take to absorb and keep in our minds? And when you're like just barely touching on like a light texture education, like it's not sticking in. And I think that is a huge problem in the education part, because again, like if you're going to say that you're a specialist in anything, if you're a blonde specialist, if you are a bronze specialist, like whatever it is, like you need to know how to do that across the board, across all fabrics of hair. So and now that I went to Texture versus Race, I actually was like flying home on the plane and watched two different videos on the airplane. Um, something about, oh, I wish I remembered her name. Do you remember the woman's name that was an advocate for the models in the industry that were representing and wanting to get more people that were educated in makeup and hair for colored people?
Yeah. So we're going to come back to that. I don't remember her name, but I will make sure to put it in the show notes because I follow her.
And she's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, no, she was amazing. She was beautiful. Um, and then I want to back up and I want to say two things. The first thing that I want to say is that I already know, just in the very short time that I've met you, that you are a good person who
Oh,
just wants to do the right thing. I know this. I don't generally like people, despite what I do for a living, but I know this. And so I'm not surprised, but I want to call attention to, because it says something about you when you have this moment with this guest and she's not happy and now she's DM'd you. And so many times in this industry, I've seen where people have made mistakes behind the chair and we tend to get defensive. Like we tend to lead with our ego. And in this moment where you're telling this story, I didn't hear any ego. I heard you take
mm,
accountability and then you went and did something about it. And you're actively trying to get the education that you need. And I just wanted to recognize you for that.
thank you.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I'm saying this completely out of love, it just threw me for a loop. Did you did you just say colored people?
Yes. I don't like I
You
need to
are
be
the girl from
educated.
Utah for sure,
I
girl.
am. I get nervous.
It's okay.
I don't
It's
know.
okay.
Like I need to
So
be
you can
educated
say
there too.
absolutely. And I love this, and I will be a safe place for you. So if you ever have anything that you're unsure about, you need to ask questions about, whatever, I got you. So in 2024, there are no colored people.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can call us, you can say that we're Black, you can say women of color, African American, anything besides colored, and obviously like the N word.
Oh yeah, no.
And I know that you were not saying that with any malice. I know you were saying that because you just didn't know. And so I wanted to share that with you and to let you know that my DMs are always open. So feel free anytime if you're just like, I
I
don't
appreciate that
know.
because that's something that like I do want to feel more comfortable with and make others feel more comfortable like in my
Mhm.
communication with them. Like
Yeah.
so when it goes into the full spectrum though of like even like our Latin sisters like that also have brown color
Mhm.
skin and textured hair as well, like
Mhm.
is the full complexity of not Caucasian, like is it
Mhm.
people of color instead of colored
Yes,
people?
ma'am. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. You can say
Perfect.
people of color, Black and brown
Yeah.
people. Yeah. Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so I said at the very beginning that I was going completely off template, and that's exactly what I've done. But now I want to get kind of go back and get on template because I want to make sure to make the most of our time. So before we do go any further into this interview, I always like for people to know like who they're dealing with. So who is Sasha? Tell us where you're from. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? Did you always want to be a hairstylist?
All right.
Who are
I
you?
I am Sasha Nicole. I am from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I didn't necessarily always want to do a career as hairstyling. My mom has been coloring my hair since I was in third grade. And so I was like always in the salon and enjoyed like living my expressions through different hair colors. And I was always like, this would be a fun job. Like this would be a fun like side hustle or whatnot. I don't know if I want to do it as my actual career, but I also didn't know really what I wanted to do as a career. I thought about at one point being a brain surgeon and then realized quickly that I don't really love school. So that was probably off the table. Thought about nursing, that was a little like scaled down, thought about so many different things. I've spent a lot of my life in the restaurant industry, bartending and serving. And so very good with people and whatnot. And it wasn't until I was living in Denver, ended up getting pregnant, and came back to Salt Lake City, Utah. Was working at a tanning salon, oddly enough, as a pregnant woman, and I don't know why, but like that was a short stint, and I was like, I can't be working here forever. This is not a career. Found a salon that was hiring for a receptionist and got hired on there. I actually didn't tell them that I was pregnant when I interviewed either, because I heard that like sometimes people won't hire you if like you're expecting. So I kept that secret and came out a little bit later about that, but it worked out just fine. And this salon was just really amazing. Like it actually taught me a lot of life lessons. And I began my journey working from a receptionist, asking for more responsibility, became the inventory manager, and then thereafter that became the salon and spa manager. During that course of time, I was talking with one of the stylists there, and she was just telling me how she thinks I'd make a really good stylist, and that she's always wanted to do an apprenticeship, and that I should consider that. And then the owner of the salon and spa sold the business, and a new guy came in, and he just did not rub elbows right with any of us. And a lot of our staff left, including the one that I was going to do an apprenticeship with. And she went to a new salon. And that's where, like, under his ownership is when I became the salon manager. So, like, I think it was a couple years later, or maybe a year and a half later, Randy came back to me and was like, I'm ready for my apprentice. Like, do you want to do it? And I was like, I mean, I just don't think it's the right time because I'm making really good money and Cody's promising me a lot of really great things and running my own salon elsewhere and all this kind of stuff. And I just don't think it's the right time right now. 2 weeks go by and my cards start declining for the salon and like doing my inventory orders. And I'm like, I know what that means. I absolutely know what that means. And like our clients were like lessening, our staff was going away, like just the whole energy of the salon space was just like plummeting so quick. And I was like, I think I should go take that. So I called her up, was like, okay, I want to do it. I want to take this apprenticeship. And I quit. And I went from being the very head of the salon space all the way down to the minion on the bottom and began my apprenticeship journey. And it was so wonderful. And from there, so in Utah, you have to do 2,500 hours for your apprenticeship as opposed to the 1,300, 1,500 that Utah offers in cosmetology school. And I think that everybody needs 2,500 hours because how I didn't know anything at 13. And after that, like I jumped right from my apprenticeship really to going out on my own, which was a risky move, but I had a 4-year-old daughter that I needed to provide for. And there was 2 other girls that were hired on and building their clientele with me. So I was sharing like the new clientele with 3 people and went from going in and taking full control of my business from there. During COVID, I went to Paul Mitchell and taught for a little bit as a side gig as well. And yeah, so that's like my career part. I'm really big into like my spiritual health and nature and really creating my exact desired life experience and just like living life to the fullest and loving life and hopefully like inspiring others along the way and speaking my story and healing others through relatability. And I'm always like open and always wanting to tell my story and just connect with all the humans out there.
Yes. Yes. You are so, so open. I want to dig more into your apprenticeship. You said it's 2,500 hours
It is, yeah.
in Utah. How long did that take you?
2000. I think it's a year and a half because I did it full
Okay.
time. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And so, what does that look like? Because obviously, when you're in cosmetology school, everything is, well, depending on the school you went to, but should be very structured, right? You've got theory, you've got on the floor, you're doing sanitations every day, you're working the reception desk. What was different? Because you mentioned earlier also that you were an instructor at Paul Mitchell the school.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Correct.
So you kind of have an idea about what happens in both environments. Can you kind of compare and contrast an apprenticeship versus being in a cosmetology school?
Everything. Every single thing. I was my mentor's first apprentice.
Okay.
So I was kind of helping her like learn and build out the ideas of how she wanted to build her apprenticeship. I did it in a way too that I was basically just an assistant the whole time. Um, Luckily, I was finagled in a way that like I was also the salon assistant as well, but majorly with my mentor. And so I was being able, because I was like, I want to do this full time, but I have a daughter that I have to take care of. So like I was also like paid for partial of it for like my working with being an assistant for the others. So I was kind of learning from everybody. I was mostly at my mentor's hip and learning from her, and then the salon owner, he taught me the cutting every Friday. So I had a cutting education on Fridays, and then I just had my daily watching her, and she would kind of teach me as she did, and then we on Mondays we would have little activities, but the book work was completely ran by myself. Um so I had to take myself through the whole like book and make sure I was pacing myself well. I think that there were pros and cons of that. Um, Especially leading up till now, like again, with everything being so new and me just having like educations out of left field doing different things. Um, I still feel like there's a lot of things that I need to know, but after having been in the industry for 8 years now, I think I'm going to be able to grasp them a lot more if I were to go back and get that education. However, I did learn a lot through my one-on-one and like being able to see how a salon really works as opposed to learning stuff in cosmetology school and pretty much having to like break all these habits that you were taught there because you're basically taught to be a safe hairdresser and coded hairdresser in cosmetology school as opposed to like a real life one. So I was grateful to be able to be in the mix of a real hair salon and knowing how it really works and learning like a very like scientific side, like an artistic scientific side of hair color and the industry. But I feel like it was lacking structure, and not saying all apprenticeships are like this. I just think that like since I was like the guinea pig in her first, like I learned so much. And when I went to go teach in Paul Mitchell, I implemented a lot of that in there. And I'd always be like, I know I'm not supposed to teach you this or say this, but because a lot of their instructors come from Paul Mitchell and they were taught the
Mhm.
Paul Mitchell way and I wasn't. They just had to throw me in during COVID because they needed instructors. And like I was kind of getting Paul Mitchell instruction, but like all my knowledge came from just like real world things. So I was always on the side. But on the side, like this
Mhm.
is really how it
Mhm.
is, guys. Don't say anything. But I mean, all of my students that I had there like contact me all the time and like share their wins with me, and they're like, you were the best, like we love like how you just gave us like real world advice. So I feel like there was pros and cons of both. Obviously the school being more structured and mapped out in how you learn things I think was really great, where mine was just like, let's pull on this today, let's doing this. But I feel like I actually got a way more in-depth color theory education, which is one of the most important things in our career, hands down.
Mhm.
And I think that that lacks a lot in professional education. I think it's that's another thing that's just touched on when I'm like, we need that like focused in.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. I had zero. Well, I didn't really have any idea about much when I graduated cosmetology school at all. But specifically color theory, like I barely understood yellow and blue makes green. Like barely. I knew nothing. Um, and it wasn't until I decided to teach hair color that I really began to understand hair color. Go figure.
All those aha
Okay.
moments.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned being at the Paul Mitchell School that you felt like they taught, um, I think the term you used was coded hairdresser.
Coded.
Elaborate.
Okay. I was like, I don't know. What did I mean by
I
that?
mean,
No, yeah. No, like health code. Like,
I
so
got you.
I really think that they just taught you to like not spread diseases and be super clean and do everything in a protocol that is of safe, that doesn't necessarily translate to the real life. Like I feel like or just like all these extra steps, like they're always like take a test strand every single time and do this and that and the other, and like in the real world, like we're not test stranding everybody. Yes, if we're doing certain procedures, but we're not test stranding everybody, and that would take way too long. And just different procedures that they have in that, like I just felt like it's a way more complicated education than what the real world life is.
I got you. Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay, so we're going to completely switch gears because I definitely want to go here. We know Mother's Day just passed, and I know that you are in your raw and authentic era, and you
Mhm.
shared a very powerful post on Mother's Day. And even though that was not my journey as a mom, because I have two children, but it still resonated with me because I believe all moms can relate to mom guilt, like always feeling like you could be better as a mom.
Absolutely.
Um, and I just, it was so good. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. Can you share what inspires you? What inspired you to share such a vulnerable moment and just opening up yourself up to potential judgments from keyboard warriors on the internet? What gave you the confidence to do that?
My own liberation and freedom.
Yeah.
It's a story that has been held over my head for 11 years. And to put it into context for all the listeners out there, I grew up my whole entire life with a very traumatic childhood experience where my mom was remarried a couple of times after my dad, and like ended up in alcoholism, like way worse, from wanting to disappear from her abusive husbands. And there was just like a lot of like, I wouldn't say neglect. Like we had a house over our head, we had food, but like emotional neglect and like the building and raising of children. And we've always had a pretty traumatic experience in between the two of us. And then when I became a mother, it showed that I was very disconnected from being a mother myself. I was also one that never like dreamt about being a mom. I wanted to be a little gypsy nomad warrior, wanderer like for my whole life. And, you know, Source had other plans for me, which it was rightfully so. Like my daughter came in to save my life at the rightful age of 22 when I was running amok and partying way too hard and being very chaotic in my life. And so at that age of 22, I was having to learn how to be an adult woman, how to be a partner, how to be a mother. And it was a lot coming in on me. And something I did know, like at that moment in time, like, yes, I did know that my childhood had affected me and that I was disconnected from motherhood. But I also knew that like children are very aware of energy and what is going on around them in their upbringing. So I was a disconnected parent. I was never outside of my daughter's life. I was always there, but her dad was always the main parent and the main influence in her life. And I would be in and out. And like my trauma response or my um how I dealt with life and those things is by overworking. I would just like slave away multiple hours. I had two jobs. I would work and work and work and, you know, tell myself like I'm just trying to survive. I'm just doing the business thing. And like I guess I had that crutch of having him be able to take care of her all that, but all that time. But fast forward, let's see, to like when I was 29, so I had her when I was 23. I ended up getting a second DUI, which like that's not really what I do. Like I wasn't a drinker and driver. Like it just like happened, and I knew that that was coming into my life to give me a hard stop. My daughter had moved to Denver the day before with her dad, and this is while I was in hair school too. This is full time school, full time work. I'm getting my
Wow.
second DUI. My whole life is blowing up. My
Yeah.
daughter's moving away, and I was like, this is spirit like telling me like I really need to switch up things in my life. And so I that's when I started working on myself and finding out what my hobbies, interests, passions, what I wanted out of life, how to be a human, how to be a woman, like all these deep things, and started that healing journey. And that's where I started really reflecting and seeing a lot of all the areas, every bit that I was like neglecting my daughter in her life, and that I don't want to repeat those patterns. And I really, again, like saw where I needed to be better and do better and put the work towards it. And I've been on a really deep healing journey for the last 4 years, and being ripped to shreds and brought down to bare bones, but really exposing more layer. Like all it was doing is exposing more layers for me to heal and be better. And it's brought me to this place where I'm having real honest conversations with my daughter, and apologizing to her for my neglect when she was a child, and really gaining that trust back with her and really showing up as the mother that she deserves. But amongst all that, like I was doing all this inner work and work with my child, and with my relationship with my mom, like learning how to compartmentalize and have it be what it's just going to be, and like me take control of my life and my emotions in that area. But I still had this cloud hanging over me that was just like judgment and fear of judgment of others, of my mothering. Like my daughter's not on my social media that much, and it's not because it's not because I'm not mothering her or doing these like great things with her in life. It's more so I don't want her on the internet because it can be a scary place. But I don't think that people like see that on a wider scale, and they just see, oh, she never puts her daughter online. She must not be a good mom. And all these stories kept like running through my head. And I'm going to go back a little bit. In my healing journey, I listened to a podcast that a friend sent me it was um like you're not a bad mother, or I'm a bad mother, or something like that. She's like, don't be turned off by the name of it, just listen to it. And it was about two different women's stories, one in which like this woman wanted to be a mother, and after having a child, like she had extreme postpartum depression, and she just wasn't connecting with her child, and it just wasn't going the way she wanted, and like it just caused a lot of chaos and like divorce in her husband. And he was like, you don't even want to be a mom, do you? And that like put a dagger through her heart, and she had to do a lot of self-realization with that, and like got to the point of like connecting to motherhood there on after. And then another woman who was much like my story, where she didn't want to have a child, she ended up getting pregnant with her husband, and he was deployed and whatnot, and would like leave often, and her depression got really bad afterwards, and her connection with her child just was not there, and they ended up getting divorced. He ended up getting remarried and was about to have a child with another woman, and he like could see this in her, that she was really struggling, had offered her like, hey, do you want me to bring in our daughter and like kind of take the stress off of your hands? And she was absolutely not, like, no way. And she was answering that from a place of fear and ego, of like what judgment of others would look like, because I'm supposed to be the mother, I'm supposed to be the one like taking care of my child. But her mental health was like deteriorating like quicker and quicker, and finally she just said yes. And she made this statement that she's like, I love my child with the deepest depths of my heart, but I don't love being a mom. And oh, I'm gonna get emotional because it's powerful, and I'm fine being emotional too. But that was a moment that really set me free. That's why I say healing and relatability is so powerful, because we isolate ourselves and we judge ourselves, and we think, oh, I'm the only one thinking these messed up thoughts. And we continue our suffering by holding things in ourselves and holding these stories and these judgments in, and just hearing another woman's experience with motherhood that was much like mine, and then even another woman's experience where she wanted to be a mom and then wasn't connected thereafter, just showed the complexity of motherhood, and how like we could be good moms and are judging ourselves and are always comparing ourselves, or sometimes that connection isn't there, or sometimes like that connection was put into our child was brought into our life for different reasons. And they're like, motherhood is just like the hardest job ever, and we're always so hard on ourselves and judging others and judging ourselves in return. Like it's so reflective that like I just knew one day like I wanted to be strong enough to tell my story, to hopefully like help somebody else in that sense too. Um, and it did. Like I had Mother's Day was really hard on me for so many years. Like I would get extreme anxiety, and this year, because I think I've reached the pinnacle of a lot of my healing. There's always more healing to do, but like I woke up the day before Mother's Day and like went to the beach and was journaling a lot and had this huge breakthrough. And I was like, we can literally just choose our new identity at any given point in time. We can choose a new storyline. We can unsubscribe from anything that is not serving us, that we keep ourselves in our own mental hells the majority of the time. And I just decided to speak on it, and I was going to put it on my personal page, but I decided to put it on my hair page and reach out to whoever needed to hear it. And it was so freeing. And I've reached a point in my life that like I don't care about hecklers or keyboard warriors or whatnot. Like they can say whatever they want. Like I've done so much work that I'm so good within myself and who I am. And I know I'm very integral and intentional with everything I do, and that I love so big and I'm a good person. And I think that I was put on this earth to go through hard lessons and be able to share them to help free other people too.
Girl, I wish I had like a bomb to drop.
Yeah.
That was so good. Thank you so much for sharing. There's
You're
so
so
many little
welcome.
nuggets of there's just good gems in there that I think a lot of people are going to learn from. I think a lot of people will connect with what you just said. It was so real, so
Thank
powerful.
you. Thank you for
So
asking. I'm grateful to be able to share that over and over now, like, and that it's
yeah,
coming with ease and
yes.
it frees me every time. Mm.
I love that. Thank you for letting me be a part of that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Tell me, what has been the most important part of your journey thus far in cosmetology or in life?
Oh, just learning how to believe in myself. And this it can go into all parts. I have always had like these really great mentors in life, and I place them above me always. And I'm always like looking at how far I have to go and like how much more work I have to do. And I'm learning to just realize that everybody is just human and we all have different levels of achievements that we've achieved. Like some may be up here in their skills of hair, but down here in their confidence or self-esteem and like wavering things like across the board of all that. And I'm really working on this journey and getting to it's been really cool to see my evolution and thought process of me just like comparing myself to people always, and in the way of like me wanting to better myself or thinking that they are better than me and I will have made it once I get up to that level, and really just like honoring and celebrating how far I've come. I think one of the biggest and best things I've done is like to keep like all of my hair pictures on my hair page from the beginning of time, from when I graduated. Because when I look at those and see the progression that like I am actually getting better, it's huge. Because like again, like I don't take the time to look at how far I've come. I just keep continually setting goals further and further, and I'm like, oh, I just have to keep going. I just have to keep going. But no, like there's so much beauty in like sitting in stillness and reflecting how far you come and how good you are, and putting love into yourself. And so like that part of my journey has been like so beautiful, and I'm really reshaping that because I'm still stuck in that now. I'm like, oh, I can be better. And my roommate always tells me like, you are so good at hair, like you need to stop doing that. um and I do. Like, again, that's another place, like just with my motherhood, that I keep myself in a mental gel. And I'm really working hard now on like observing my experience and observing my patterns and realizing they're not serving me, and like unsubscribing, control alt delete, like that doesn't
Yes.
belong here no more, and
Yes.
speaking life into myself. And again, like the only thing that you can do, like if you don't like something in your life, then do something, put motion towards it to make it better. So I am watching like listening to like business podcasts every day. I am watching hair tutorials. I'm signing up for classes. I am practicing on my mannequin. Like I don't feel as confident as I want to be in certain areas. So I'm just going to put motion towards it and like better it instead of like being stuck in this place and continuing on that story that I am not, because the only words that belong here is I am, and I am a badass, and I am a great hairdresser, and I am going to continue like excelling and growing from here.
Girl, you are everything this industry needs. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of this generation of hairstylists. So, how long have you been licensed?
For 8 years.
Amazing. And you're like a billion years ahead of me. And I've been doing this industry for 20, 28 years.
Oh
28
my God.
years. And like your mindset and where you are, I'm just so proud of you. And I'm so excited to see where this industry is headed because it's changing so freaking fast right now. But I
Absolutely.
love seeing like who's at the wheel, and I feel like y'all got this. I'm just so proud of y'all. Okay, so we reached the part of the podcast that I call Story Time with Auntie Hair Coach. So
All right.
we're definitely winding down. But I've got 3 prompts here. You can choose to answer all 3 of them, but I would love it if you would choose at least one and just give us a quick little short story.
All right.
So the first prompt is, what's your favorite song lyric and why? The second prompt is, tell us about a time you got to meet someone you looked up to in the industry. Or the third prompt is, if you could change one thing about the beauty industry, what would it be?
Hmm. I guess I'm gonna go with my third one.
Okay.
Those are all great. I was like, I'm surprised I didn't go with the music one because I love music so much. But I think like our industry right now is doing really great things. However, I think since COVID, I feel like there's been this more of an influx on the charging portion and charging so much more for all of our services, which I also think is correct because I also think that we have undercharged for so long and devalued ourselves. But I think that there's a fine line, and I think it's in like the value that you're giving your clients for that cost. We're in this time where we're like double booking and getting as many people in to make the most money, but like our clients are feeling like they're just being discarded to the side, and just like being like herded through like cattle. Um, Not quoted, like I didn't hear anybody say that, but that's like my perception of it as I see like one thing that I value within my experience with my guests is that even if we do have a assistant in the salon, I will always do my head washes as long as I can. Like there maybe be like moments of times where like I do get backed up and I need to utilize the assistant, but like I really value connecting with my client and they're paying to see me and I want to see them all the way through their service. And I am known for my head washes and my scalp massages, so like I think that is the best part of their whole experience and I want to give that to them. And so like different things that are valuable to the clients, and a lot of the times like we think maybe like, oh, I offer wine or champagne or like little treats or um maybe TV and like Spotify playlists or like just like different things like that, when really like time and connection is really what our guests value a lot, and safe spaces or like being able to express themselves or not talk at all or like just different things, and like timeliness. Or and I think a lot of the industry I've had an experience with since moving from Utah to Florida is that I see a lot of stylists, and then what I hear too with my clients is that they just don't feel like they're getting the quality service out of their experience. And I hear a lot of the stylists talk about, well, you just have to charge this, and this is what you have to charge more of, and just get them through. And I assisted in another place in Florida before I could be on the floor, 2 of the main hairdressers, and they were like triple booked. So I was just being in a shampoo bowl and toning all the time and like being forced to like do the add-ons and like the treatments and doing this and pushing all that. And they aren't even having conversations or really connecting with their clients. And then I was told that I was talking too much to them and I needed to hurry up and be quicker. And I'm like, you're missing such a valuable part of this whole experience. I have some of the most amazing clients back in Utah that I still go back and they'll still see me when I go back. And I go back a couple times a year. And when I left Utah, I wrote them all individualized messages, like thanking them for trusting me with their hair for so many years and giving them personalized recommendations who I feel like would fit with them going forward in the future. And I bawled through it all. Like I had such amazing, deep connections with them. And I think that's where the magic lies, and that's actually what gives you a better, growing, abundant, prosperous business is that human connection, because we're also like in need of so much more human connection these days. So I would say like being careful on balancing that line of, yes, like charging your worth and getting your money in and caring for yourself, but also like remembering that we're touching heads, we're having energetic exchanges, and we want to be very intentional and open with that, and like making sure the client's perceived value is worth what you're charging too. And I think that that is like a big thing that I would like to change or like have a focus on, so it doesn't go too far to the other side where it's just like a nail salon that they're just like
Yeah.
bringing everybody through on the hour, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Girl, I'm so excited that this industry has you. How can my listeners follow your movement?
I would say follow my Instagram at the Embodied Canvas, the Embodied Canvas. I'm really working on creating even like a mentorship or like a course too, because the branding and the vibe of what I want to create around my hair business is far deeper than that. I have found my freedom and my connection to my deepest self and living in my full embodiment, and that is living without fear of wearing something, saying something, doing something in fear of judgment of others, because it's our life and we only get one to live, and we don't know if we've lived 75% of our life or 25% of our life at any given moment. So like let's live our life. Let's live our life to the fullest, and that incorporates like being who you want to be exactly. And I want to help women. I want to help everybody, but it's probably going to be mostly women, like really embody that. Like I ask them like, how do you like, what is your dream look and hairstyle? Or within clothing, I kind of guide them on how to like create their dream style and aesthetic, like via like Pinterest boards and whatnot. And I really want to create um, a guide or a mentorship or something connected to my experience and have that be a part of my experience in my hair chair to really like shift their self narratives, just how they talk to themselves, how they think about themselves, how they move in the world, and like really shape like who they want to be and be connected to their fullest embodiment. So that's the movement I'm creating. I think it's so important to like be free and live as our highest selves. And it's created a lifestyle for me that is so full and so wealthy and so yummy that like I just want to share that knowledge with all of you.
Sasha, girl, you are brilliant. You are brave. Like I want to be like you when I grow up. I'm so grateful that you asked us to hop in that car with you that day.
Me
And I look
too.
forward to watching your career blossom. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to come see you in Atlanta.
Sit down, sit down. Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you could make it.
Next time on Therapy Sessions with Auntie Hair Coach.
But there's a large segment of people who are coming to the hair salons because they have to. Like they have no concept of hair care. They were not allowed to touch their hair. Hair care in the Black community, this, you know, using culture to kind of like, as this broad brushstroke, it's like the worst thing that you can do, because African Americans have so many subcultures as they have languages.